Miracle cure or dangerous narcotic? What is cannabis really capable of, and how should it be treated by the law?
I don't want to be breaking the law, but what do you want me to do? Lie there like a cabbage on the couch all day long, fitting out, not eating, not able to eat.
Also, what's going on in the workplace with stress levels twice what they were a few years back? We'll be asking why this is and what can be done about it.
It's dog eat dog to get to the top, and they don't care who they hurt to get there.
And offside, Ballybrack FC in hot water after faking a death to avoid a fixture. Hello and welcome to the programme. A campaign for access to medicinal cannabis in this country has been intensifying, with a number of families going public with their stories, including a Cork family whose 4-year-old son was the first Irish person to be legally licensed to be treated with medical cannabis. In a moment we'll be hearing about the wider debate, but first Richard Downs has the story of Yvonne Cahalan and her son Tristan.
Thank you.
3 years ago, the medics treating this little boy, Tristan, were preparing for the worst.
A palliative care plan had been put together for him. That is how the doctors had communicated about his future, or the lack thereof. It was the case of, let's provide counselling for the family, whatever health or services that they need, let's just prepare for what's coming.
It was that bleak?
It was absolutely that bleak. Yeah, it really was.
Tristan's severe epilepsy had the family on edge. Dozens of seizures, sometimes up to 20 in a day.
We got rid of our furniture. We padded up banisters and rads and everything because it was literally just fall like a tree. He had to wear a helmet. He used to get bloody noses, chipped teeth. They were relentless and unforgiving. It would happen everywhere and for any and no reason.
When we first met the family in 2016, Yvonne had taken Tristan to Colorado in the US, where medical cannabis has been legal for decades and where fully qualified medical doctors used it as a therapeutic drug.
It was nearly instant, to the point that I rang the doctor and I asked, is this supposed to be happening this quickly? Within the first week, he was more stable on his feet. Within the second week, he was actually babbling. Now, we didn't have the words yet, but we had the babbling. And that enough was like, there's something happening here.
Abba.
Abba.
Can you see Daddy?
All the while she was in the States, Yvonne was campaigning for Tristan to be allowed access to medicinal cannabis in Ireland. Cannabis is a Scheduled 1 substance here, which makes it the highest level of illegal drug. A special measure was agreed by the Minister for Health, and Yvonne was the first person to be given a licence to import it into Ireland. Another 11 licences have since been granted to other people.
Within the following week, we were over to the Netherlands for his medicine.
So there was no interregnum?
There was no delay. Yeah. no delay. It is very short half-life as far as medical cannabis in your system. It's got a short half-life, so it doesn't last very long. You do need to keep on top of it. You do need to keep things regular and stable.
And for you, the right way was what?
Legally, medically supervised, absolutely credible product, something that is consistent, quality, safety. As far as a medical treatment plan, if it isn't consistent, that can have just as bad an effect as not having it at all. If you're not going to have that consistency, you won't get the longevity of the treatment out of it. It's not going to be effective.
Have manners, have patience.
Have manners and have patience.
Very good.
Tristan is now stable and well enough to go to school. He's taking a controlled dose of cannabis oil with all the compounds, the psychoactive one included, under medical supervision.
What would it be like without him? He's just an absolute devil. I think anyone that gets to know him gets to see the little rogue that he is, and he's a lovable rogue as well, but he's cute.
Now, Tristan is one of only 12 people licensed directly by the Minister for Health to import medical cannabis into Ireland. Meanwhile, campaigners who believe in the medical benefits of cannabis are demanding its wider availability. But opponents warn that anything more than the most limited access could quickly open the door to legalising cannabis for recreational use. Here's Richard Downs again.
The first thing to be clear about is what's in cannabis. Out of the hundreds of compounds, 2 are the most commonly discussed. CBD is not psychoactive, it's not illegal. THC is what provides the buzz or the high that people associate with cannabis and is illegal. There's CBD oil, which is not illegal. And there's cannabis oil, which has all the compounds included, and that is illegal. Jim Weathers runs Puff and Stuff in Youghal in County Cork, a booming business selling smoke-related materials and hemp products. He does not sell illegal cannabis, but he does sell CBD products. That's the non-psychoactive legal part of the hemp or cannabis plant. Jim is expanding and has found this new shop in Cork, which is opening any day now.
CBD has been growing tremendously.
What's it good for?
Legally, it's considered a dietary supplement, so it is not recognized as something being medically beneficial. So for me to tell you that, I would be then creating a lot of havoc. So unfortunately, you do have to talk to people about it. So when people come in, I do say certain things, and I probably shouldn't. And I know that at some point in time, I will be called out on it. But it's something you can Google. So, I mean, whatever I'm saying is what anybody can Google online and find the same exact information. So I'm not, making claims for, that are directly from myself. They're from other people.
But people have made claims for it that it cures cancer, that it cures autism if autism needs to be cured. Well, all these claims. Do you make those claims?
No.
You cannot cure cancer, is that what you're telling me?
Well, I can't, but cannabis can. Right?
Really?
Yes. CBD not. CBD is not what can kill cancer. It's actually the THC, which is a psychoactive part of the plant, which is the illegal component of it. Again, you can Google it. You can go to YouTube and watch scientists kill cancer cells with THC. It's it's there.
In a petri dish.
Yes. Yep.
But you can do that with bleach.
Yes, that's exactly right. But the misfortune thing is with bleach, humans can't consume bleach, right? But we can consume cannabis.
If you Google cannabis and cancer, it's amazing what comes up. Claim after claim for what cannabis can do. Some say CBD oil can have an effect. Most claim it's the THC in cannabis that works. Some of these posts look like they were put together by rank amateurs. Others have the sheen of professionalism.
But you're absolutely clear that you're not making those claims.
No, absolutely.
You're not making medical claims,
No.
even though you believe that there are medical benefits from cannabis.
Yes.
You cannot make them legally.
That is correct.
Just to be clear.
Yes.
But you do believe it.
I do believe it because I see it daily. Every day, somebody comes into my shop and says that it has changed their life.
Changing lives. That's a big, big claim.
So if you know someone who's taken a particular product and they feel it's done them some good, they might even felt that it's treated them or even cured them of something, that's good enough for them, but it's not scientific proof.
The claim that cannabis cures cancer has been made for decades, and unfortunately it is totally false. There has been a lot of people who profiteer off this claim, but however it is not substantiated. There are no cancer research organisations that vouch for this or that recommend this. There's plenty of evidence that it doesn't have any efficacy against cancer, and yet it is one of the biggest selling points that people who are very interested in cannabis as a medicine put forward. But I think it's incredibly unethical to make claims about a disease as devastating as cancer, which are not true, which are not substantiated.
The claims for cannabis seem to know no bounds. It's even been suggested as a cure or treatment for autism.
I came across cannabis about 2 years ago on Facebook, mostly groups saying cannabis cure for autism, and I looked at some of the claims that they were making, basically saying that it's the next stage for a cure for autism. And I researched further, and there is no science at all anywhere in the world to say that cannabis can treat or cure autism. I am pro-science and I'm very, very worried because there's no regulation in this area. We have no bill in Ireland that protects autistic people from pseudoscience, quack treatments.
One political party associated with legalising cannabis is People Before Profit, who caused concern when this poster appeared promoting a meeting in Castlebar.
It's not party policy?
No, it's not at all. It's not at all. I think people made a huge deal of it, you know. Like, anybody...
You can see why. You put on a poster, cannabis cures cancer, and it's Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, Sinn Féin.
Of
People
course.
go nuts.
Yeah, of course, it's quite outlandish. But look, we rectified that at the time, and, you know, we dealt with that. That was grand. There's obviously outlandish claims that cannabis can cure everything. It can't. You know, can cannabis be used as medicine? I think so. And I think that's probably borne out by 12 licences issued by the Minister for Health.
Gino Kenny introduced a bill to legalise medicinal cannabis, which fell at committee stage. It's not going to become law. It was designed to change the situation whereby a doctor finds it almost impossible to prescribe cannabis because it's classified as a Schedule 1 drug.
A Schedule 1 drug, if you look at the scheduling, it says that that particular substance in Schedule 1 has no medical benefit. So what we're saying that cannabis-based products should be rescheduled into Schedule 2 where they can be prescribed.
The reason the legislation failed to pass, and the reason doctors are concerned, is because of the evidence about the potential harm that can be caused, particularly by super-strong modern forms of cannabis. Those who treat mental illness say there's a proven link between high-potency cannabis use and psychosis. As many as 14% of users of street cannabis experience psychosis.
A quarter of people who are using cannabis would meet criteria for dependency on it. And it is a very difficult thing to see somebody literally disintegrate in front of your eyes, you know. 1 week somebody can be reasonably well presented and the following week can be talking about their worries about the session being recorded or believing that they, you know, have won the lottery or believing that, you know, they have special powers of some kind.
So the current legal situation here reflects the concern of doctors and others that cannabis is a dangerous substance, and we have one of the most restrictive legal regimes in the Western world. And yet Canada has completely legalised all forms of cannabis.
Prohibition has ended right now. We just made history. Cannabis, 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 cannabis.
Many American states have made cannabis available for medicinal use. Many others have decriminalised it for leisure use. And closer to home, you can smoke cannabis to your heart's content in Amsterdam and in a growing number of European centres. However, here, cannabis possession is against the law, and repeat offenders can find themselves in jail. That was the prospect facing John Montaigne, originally from Dublin but now living in West Clare, where he appeared on a cannabis charge in Kilrush District Court last Tuesday.
I was just standing in shock. I said, God, I'm going to do time. And then Judge Dorkin started talking. And he says to the prosecution fella, he says, did you know he was ill? And he says, no, we know now.
John suffers from epilepsy and says the only drug that works for him is cannabis oil, which he says has kept him seizure-free for more than 18 months.
There was probably about 3 a week at the start, but then they just kept getting progressively worse as the months went on. Like probably every 3 to 4 months I was getting more of them. I was having 5 a day.
Wow.
And then 6 a day.
So you're on a lot of medication?
Yeah, and like the amitriptyline, like they the main side effect then is weakening your bones. So my teeth got weak. So when I was having fits then, like they were breaking. It's simple as that. Like.
Tell me about when you first came across the oil.
Well, I was talking to a man in the neurologist's office. He was the one that suggested it. He said he gets it off this holistic doctor that he goes to. But he's worried about his own supplies, so he wouldn't tell me where to get it. So with that, I says, right, what I need is marijuana. I need to figure out how to buy a load of it to make this oil.
But the price of using cannabis oil is a string of convictions, the latest before a sympathetic judge in Kilrush.
He says, I feel complete sympathy for you. He says, but as you said yourself, it's still illegal. I am going to have to fine you. And I believe what you're telling me. So he gave me a €100 fine. I walked out there quite happy. I thought I was going to probably see a couple of months of prison or even a heftier fine than that I couldn't afford. I'm literally doing it for the good of my health. I have to. It's a necessity. I'm going out there. I know I'm breaking the law. I don't want to be breaking the law. But what do you want me to do? Lie there like a cabbage on the couch all day long, fitting out, not eating, not able to eat, lose the rest of my teeth. I'm only 36 years of age. I should be allowed to live.
There is a route open to John and to others to get cannabis on prescription by special licence. But it is a long, potentially expensive and arduous road, and not one he or many others have explored yet.
Richard Downs reporting. I'm joined now by People Before Profit TD Gino Kenny, who, as you saw there, has proposed legislation to legalise cannabis for medicinal use, and by cancer researcher Dr. David Robert Grimes. Dr. Grimes, why shouldn't people like John, who we saw there, get the substance they need to treat their condition?
It sounds very cruel when you phrase it like that, like the medical and scientific establishment are just putting their hands up and saying no. But unfortunately, as moving as anecdotes are, we have to be driven by data. We have to look at evidence of efficacy and evidence of harm, and we have to weigh these two things up. So a 2017 review by the National Academy of Science in the US, the most esteemed body in science, looked at 10,000 studies to do with medical benefits of cannabis-related products. And they found relatively scant evidence of benefit. They found it for 3 conditions. They found it for some chronic pain relief. They found it for spasms associated with MS, some good evidence for that. And they found evidence that it could help manage nausea in some patients that were resistant to other medications for chemo drugs. And for everything else, they found nothing in the review.
And yet the World Health Organization Expert Committee on Drug Dependence met earlier this month. They say there's been a rapid rise in quality scientific work on the medical use of cannabis-derived products, and there is evidence that these products can have effective therapeutic applications.
There is limited early study evidence, but I think people have to be very cautious of over-interpolating that evidence, and that's a major problem. If we do basic lab studies, we need to take time to work out costs and benefits and effects. Another thing that has to be pointed out is medical cannabis is actually available in Ireland. You need a consultant's note. If the consultant thinks that you would benefit from it, in their professional judgment, you can get it. So there's a bit of a misconception that there's no access to it. There's been access to it for some time now.
OK, Gino Kenny, you presumably welcome what the WHO is saying about the potential benefits. But the WHO goes on to say there's also increasing evidence of harm caused by cannabis use, including association with the onset of schizophrenia and a risk of dependence.
Well, I think
this is not a consequence.
No. I think copious amounts of smoking cannabis is not good for anybody. So we're not advocating that. But David, it's important to separate the issues from medical and recreation. So the two issues should not be conflated. But the reason why I put the bill forward was for medical use, not recreation use. That's a different debate. We'll have it at a different time.
But the Oireachtas Committee, which reviewed your bill in some detail, said your bill was as much about decriminalising the use of cannabis as it is about promoting
David,
it.
that was very politically
charged. But if you could
let
me finish, as about promoting it for medicinal use.
Yeah, and then 4 months later they had a change of opinion on the pre-legislative scrutiny, and then that bill was voted in the Dáil to progress to the next stage. So,
and where's it going now?
Well, it's in the Dáil. It's in the Dáil stratosphere because Leo Varadkar has put it in the
I read your bill as well. Yeah. I read it from a medical scientific perspective, and the point of decriminalisation seemed to be the major point of it, because you were making claims that weren't well substantiated. You wanted to set up a second body to regulate cannabis. Now, we already have the HPRA in Ireland that regulate all drugs. You wanted to treat this like Schrodinger's medicine, both treated as medicine and not.
It was about regulation. That was the whole reason why the bill...
So why not go to the HPRA?
No, we put amendments to the government about the Cannabis Regulation Authority. That would be the HPRA would actually take charge of that. So that was.
So there wouldn't be a separate authority.
No.
And but the HPRA has said that most cannabis products are simply not capable of being authorised as medicines. There isn't enough evidence of their effectiveness, there's no information on their safety, and they don't have the quality standards you need in a medicine.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the bigger argument. We're faced with cannabis-based medicines and cannabis-based products. So hopefully that the law needs to change, because at the moment the cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug. If they reschedule cannabis as cannabis-based products to Schedule 2, then they can be prescribed by a doctor. Until then, we're going to have a lot of kind of ambiguity and very confusion about this subject.
But are the products there, are the products of a standard there?
Well, they are. Some of the companies...
Well, not according to the HPRA.
Well, I mean, there's 12 licenses that have been granted, and them 12 licenses that have been granted have been granted for cannabis-based products, not medicines.
OK, David Robert Grimes, I mean, you mentioned the fact that you can get a licence.
Yes.
12 people have been able to get a licence. I mean, it's not exactly...
I believe it's only been rolled out since last year. Right, but the bigger factor is the consultant has to decide this could have potential benefit. You're talking about regulation, how it should be addressed. I think we need to go to evidence first.
Oh, of course,
and I think there's a reach.
That's why I put the bill.
But you saw in the little VT there.
For regulation, that's the bill.
We had people making claims. As a cancer researcher, I deal with people. I'm not blaming you for this, but I deal with people that genuinely come up and say this will benefit this condition, that condition, and we look at them and say, I'm sorry, the evidence isn't there. And particularly with diseases like cancer, where people are desperate and vulnerable, and they're being told cannabis oil will sort you out.
No.
That is very counterproductive for your argument.
Of course, David. It's outlandish. I can't control that. The only thing I can control as
you have reposted things on your Facebook page about people
that doesn't
believing
that
they
you can't make a jump. You can't.
But you
jump from that. You can't jump from that to say cannabis cures cancer. I mean, that's completely bogus.
But you have shared posts that have made those
claims. But that doesn't say
we've argued about this before.
That's completely bogus. That's completely bogus.
Well, why did you reshare them?
I've never said cannabis.
So why did you reshare people who do?
Well, it's a testimony of somebody's condition where
but
they're absolutely...
Evidence, is it?
No, these people are in desperate situations, and on a weekly basis, David, families and individuals contact me because they're absolutely desperate. So the 3 ways they can get cannabis oil or cannabis medicine is through a licence, go abroad, or get it illegally. Now, if they get it illegally, they have a chance of being imprisoned.
Yeah. Okay.
So absolutely.
Great point.
But I say the argument here. I'm here personally. I'm pro legalization, even for recreational use, and proper monitoring. But what I am not pro is people making unsubstantiated claims of medical benefit.
We're not saying that.
But you're saying you want the legislation changed before the evidence. Do you know it doesn't work that way? It has to work the other way around.
Well, this is a debate we will no doubt return to. But Dr. Grimes and Deputy Kenny, thank you both for joining us. Miriam.